Hello, everyone. Dr. Christine Smith back for a wonderful interview for you today with Dr. Kathy Parmele. And she is an ER physician turned functional medicine doctor and an endurance athlete, and has also created a device for helping athletes to work with their connective tissue and fascia. So we met at a mutual company that we collaborate with that's all about educating people about their health, helping people to remember how to take time to rest and recover and really engage with the quality of life. And I wanted to bring her on because she had such a fascinating perspective with having both of these backgrounds. So thanks so much for coming on, Dr. Kathy. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I would love if you could just tell people a little bit about your background and how you found this passion in functional medicine and having this broad knowledge across both forms of healthcare.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Greece and came to the United States. In Greece, uh, food is very from scratch. I did not know anything about ultra processed foods until I got older. That's a little bit of background, which comes back later. But I did my college training at Harvard. I majored in biochemistry. I went to medical school at University of Pennsylvania, and then I did my emergency medicine residency at University of Pittsburgh. I loved emergency medicines. I still do. I still am in it. I love acute care, really trying to help people at the brink of disaster or when they are in the process of heading that way and trying to avoid it. Um, but over the years, I noticed that diseases that were occurring, that should be occurring in later years, were happening at younger and younger ages. And this is just in my 25 years of practicing medicine. So, just in 2 decades, huge shifts have occurred. So that was kind of like a, wonder what's going on there. I always had a love for sports and endurance, sports in general, and then noticed that as I was having a family, getting more involved with my kids' activities, being trying to be a good wife, a good mom, a good emergency physician, doing more and more for my endurance sports, I was starting to have some issues myself with my own health. So it was taking me a while to recover from my runs. My knees would swell up. I would have lots of issues there. But then I started flaring with eczema, which had never happened to me before. And and it would happen like every 2 to 3 weeks. Various parts of my body would flare up, and they were in tissues that were not exactly um, similar. So the base of my scalp, my feet, the palm of my hand, tibia in front of my shin, and some other nether regions that we won't specifically name. So I was like, wow, these are flaring all together and then going away altogether. Something must be causing this to happen. And I went to a dermatologist and I said, something's happening. I eat food from scratch. I exercise. I was doing night shift emergency medicine. So that was a huge stressor. And, doing endurance training.
A lot.
Obviously those two were big stressors, but I thought the food might be good. So I asked, is there anything that I'm eating maybe or that I'm doing that is causing these tissues to flare? And her answer was no, just blanket statement, no. And I was told that I needed to shower with tepid water and put steroid here and steroid there and steroid there. And it's a different steroid for every part of the body. And, have a good day. Uh, and so my biochemistry mind started going like, what is going on here? Clearly, this isn't, steroids decrease inflammation, but they don't get to the root cause, like something is happening. So that kind of started my foray into looking at root cause medicine, and then that in addition to getting burned out from emergency medicine night shift, my marriage was going downhill. so, so I kind of decided I was going to really go deep into self care, healing from within, try to help my colleagues feel better, in terms of burnout. Um, and I discovered lifestyle medicine and functional medicine. And um, I was like, aha, the biochemistry nerd in me, like, got all excited. We can look at root cause, we can see what's going on, these inflammatory pathways, like what's going on, tracking, yada, yada. And, it turned out for me that it was stress. I had done eliminations and this and that, because who knows, everybody's different. And it turns out it was stress. And, of course, that's really one of the hardest things to take care of. But, yeah, I started meditating, journaling. It wasn't even my doing, like my choice, but I did end up separating and getting a divorce, which was ultra stressful. But then went down the path of functional medicine, started my own practice, found a wonderful man through a meditation app, and have been doing really well from the eczema flares. Actually, I had been flare free for several years, starting to get a little bit more now, which is a barometer for me. It's like ding, 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 ding. You're not doing something, you need to go back to the basics and like recover more. And so it's been really helpful for me to find that doing this really works, and then also trying to share it with my patients. Because acute care medicine is great and it's necessary, absolutely necessary, but let's try to keep folks from needing the services of acute care medicine as much as possible, right? So that's,
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I think you are so on point on so much of that. And acute care is great, and it's meant for acute care and
Mhm.
not for chronic care.
Right.
So I also like, if we can start to really dive into the functional medicine and lifestyle aspects of things, I think this is where the healing for so many things lie. And I want to kind of talk about a few of the things that you brought up that I thought were really good points. You mentioned first thing that you had this awareness that your recovery was taking too long.
Mhm.
And that is such a subtle
Mhm.
initial red flag that people miss. And it's very interesting working with athletes, right? Because they tend to be people that just push through things. But if you want to build muscle, if you want to get stronger, if you want to build endurance, you have to allow recovery time. Otherwise, your body goes into a breakdown state and you literally just start eating yourself for fuel. And your body
Mhm.
can't function like that long term. And this is how we get breakdown of joints and ligaments, and where we get perpetual injuries and all that stuff. So if you're taking a long time to recover, or you keep getting tweaks, or you are having some kind of skin flare, exactly like you're talking about, it's another red flag of like, hey, we're inflamed. And your body, when it speaks to you, it speaks in whispers. So if you're feeling pain or you're experiencing a symptom, it is now using a megaphone. You have gone through like the whisper and talking phase, and you're in the megaphone phase. And so this is a time to really go in and listen to your body. And I think this is what we skip in some of the conventional model, is it's like, oh, you have this symptom. Okay, well, we'll fix this symptom. The symptoms are breadcrumbs leading you to what the problem is. The idea is that we want to follow the symptoms, not mute them and ignore them. And so this is kind of the concept behind functional medicine, is following that trail of breadcrumbs. And you even mentioned like you basically went through an emotional injury during this time, right? I describe it to people as an injury because people understand how we're supposed to care for an injury. When you injure your ankle and you twist it, you're supposed to rest and elevate and let it heal and massage it and get the lymph moving and care for it. When we go through an emotional injury, we need to do the same thing with our emotional body. And this might mean seeking support, or seeking community, or meditating to get your nervous system back into balance and to reconnect with your own energy after it's been dispersed and intertwined and other things. And that is a component of health too, and like the holistic health that we're talking about. So, like, it's so interesting to talk to you with an ER background, because it's such a different mindset of training. And I have so much respect for you for, getting people off the ledge of chaos. Like it's a lot on your nervous system. I can't even imagine doing it and working a night shift and all the other stuff you're talking about. That's a lot for anybody. And it's an extra lot just in general. But what have you found to be the biggest shift in your thinking, in your philosophy, in that like deep meaning to you as you have unlearned and relearned some concepts and how you kind of hold conventional medicine and how you hold functional medicine? Like, what's been the mindset evolution?
So in the past, I was feeling like the victim actually in the system. Um, every once in a while, I'll kind of feel that way still, but it was actually quite bad, to the point where I was feeling so bad when I would go into work that I had lost empathy. It was I think it's called compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue, and it felt like, you know, another person who's here for a work note, another person who is drunk, or who's, like, I'm working so hard for all these people and I am not getting any return. For me, what shifted in the emergency department in terms of actually helping me with my acute care of my patients and actually benefiting them even more was realizing that that I'm there, like this was my calling, and I'm there to help them. And what they need is an empathetic ear, and I will get energy from them in that way. So um, when that shifted, and when I felt gratitude towards the fact that I was not the one injured on the other side, I was the physician taking care of people, and I could just sit and listen and be with their pain. Um, I became a better doctor. I was able to really be in the moment and hear their complaints. And with that, I could pick up on subtle nuances that, if I had missed, would have totally missed the diagnosis. Um, to the point where I think that it gives you that care, that health care. Um, for example, last night I worked, it was crazy busy, but I made so many connections with so many people. And even though it was so busy, I felt like I was really doing a good job. So that has what that shifted my thinking in the emergency department. And that was brought on by this whole journey that I had to go through for myself to recognize how to best heal myself. And that was with, again, meditation and mindfulness and gratitude and journaling. And so bringing this soft side to the harshness of an emergency department was the thing that has really helped. And helps patients and helps me. It helps me feel better and lets me tolerate when it's absolute chaos, helps me feel, you know, grounded and secure in that space.
I think for anybody who works in the emergency space, just hearing you talk about how you've put the many years of practice into a form of wisdom of how to survive in that environment is important because those environments are intense and overwhelming and you are sleep deprived and all those things. So I think that balance and bringing the care back into those environments is so important because I know a lot of people have gone through experiences there where their doctors are so tired and so run down and so burnt out. And so I I think you call it empathy fatigue, that in itself is a canary in the coal mine, just like eczema or just like slow recovery, right?
Oh,
If you're at the point where you don't have the capacity to have empathy for another human, it means that you need to have empathy for yourself and you need to go do some self-care and replenish so that you can bring your humanity back. So I think that's a very good point. And it sounded like you had another thought you wanted to share?
well, just what you were saying with the
Yeah.
empathy fatigue. Like, I never did it, but just the cars in the parking lot. So even when there's no place to park, I just felt like peeing back then, not now. And I never did it. Okay. I just that when I got to that point, I was like, wait a minute, what is happening to me? This is not who I am. Again, that was more the megaphone. That wasn't the whisper.
Well, those invasive thoughts, they're another canary in the coal mine, right? It means that we are fatigued and our resilience is down and we're reacting instead of responding. So, all of these things let you know when we need to take some time to take care of our body. And that can be as simple as going for a walk and not thinking about all the problems in your life and listening to birds.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a break can be that simple. It doesn't have to be complex. It's just taking, like, 15 minutes where you're not thinking about all your problems consciously. And, like, if they come up, you consciously drop them and you give yourself that break. And then that's just, like, one way to start, and then there's so many other ways to care for yourself. But
Mhm.
I think the reason that we're talking about this is it all plays into longevity and neurological health and a lot of what we face now, whether it's family members who are aging or the rapid amount of cognitive decline that we're having that has shifted immensely in the last decade or two, and just understanding how all these play into each other. And I know you had even mentioned, eczema. And the reason that I think it's important to address, like, I know you can just put steroid cream on it and it'll ease your symptoms, but it's a reflection of your brain. Your skin comes from the ectoderm embryologically, and so does your brain. So really they're like siblings, and your skin is like a representation of what's going on inside your body, inside your gut, right? Inside skin, outside skin, same skin. And then it's also representation of what's going on in its embryological sibling, your brain, your nervous system. So if the skin is inflamed, your nervous system is probably inflamed. And if your skin is inflamed, you're probably also dealing with more anxiety, and you're probably not as resilient, and you might be a little depressed, and you're probably not sleeping well. And those can all be tied to inflammation. So, what do you see and like how all of this connects on how this plays into neurological and long-term health?
No, I think that's a really good point. And like I said, for me, I found that the answer was stress.
Yeah.
So, for me, that's how, because I tried 3 months being 100% gluten free, no alcohol, green tea, and, all the antioxidants that I could do. And it wasn't changing my flares at all.
Well, and I want to tell people this as we're about to talk about it. Emotional stress can cause an inflammatory response
Mhm.
just like an injury. So
Oh, yeah.
that's exactly
Oh,
what she's trying to point
absolutely. It
out.
actually causes intestinal permeability. So, but what I found was super interesting was right at the time when I was discovering all of this, my father was going through worsening Alzheimer's dementia, and this was earlier before I had really done any diving deep into functional medicine. Actually, I didn't know what functional medicine was at the time, and I pretty much assumed that because conventional medicine has been told once you have dementia, it is just a downward spiral and there's nothing that you can do about it and it just gets worse and worse. So it was basically like, oh, my dad has this. It's just a matter of time before he passes away. Um, Sadly, because if I knew about it now, there'd be a ton of things that I would be doing to help change his course or at least stabilize him. But one thing that I found was super interesting was that his neurologist recommended brain PT and wrote down binaural beats on a little piece of paper, which I was like, I have no idea what binaural beats are. I'd never heard of brain PT. So I was like, what is this all about? And then the aha moment was realizing that binaural beats get you into that meditative state more quickly, which is a regenerative, healthy brain state, reduces anxiety, increases the size of your hippocampus, improves your memory, decreases stress, feelings of stress, and all those things. And I was like, whoa, I did not know this existed. I should try it. So, because we tried out my dad, but he was, so far, he wouldn't even like keep the headphones in. But I did it in a very like systematic, regular way. And that's how I incorporated meditation. And yeah, lo and behold, that's what it took to help reduce my eczema flares. So, to your point.
That was me too. So I was at a point where I was allergic to everything after like a mold exposure, including food. I'd lost a bunch of weight, my hair was falling out, like it was a whole thing. And the only way I could get my inflammation down was meditation because I was allergic to supplements. So I was a functional medicine doc and I couldn't use my own tools. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to just take steroids because clearly my body was trying to do something. It was trying to clear poison, right? If I took steroids, it would just shut my immune system down. So instead, I went and meditated. And in that meditation, I found that my immune system and inflammation was highly tied to my perception of trust of the universe. Your immune system is your defense. If you're in a state where you're not trusting yourself or other people or the universe, your immune system's going to go on defense and it's going to be hyperstimulated. And I was actually, nerd that I am, I was reading a metaphysical anatomy book last night and I happened to look up the immune system and it was talking about immune system dysregulation is often tied to states where we're feeling unsafe.
Hmm.
And especially like if we're trying to fit into a situation where we're accommodating someone else, will actually shrink our energetic field and it shrinks our immune system capacity. And we either sometimes if we're on the defense, we get hyperstimulated, or if we're in that shrinking capacity, we don't have a good immune function. And then we deal with chronic infections and things like that. And I found that so fascinating. And then we tie it back to the whole brain relationship we were talking about. So it's like the state of your brain represents the state of your immune system, your body's ability to build or break down. And that alpha state that you were talking about, it's basically dropping the body into what's called an anabolic state, right? So we can think alpha, anabolic, and that means building. It's a state where the body can build. So when you're talking about the brain regenerating itself during that time, you're consciously taking awake, focused, intentional time to enter a recovery state where you just sit there and you let your body rebuild.
Mhm. Yeah, and to your point, that was a thing that worked, and it was a big aha moment because before that, I had never done any research into the evidence because I didn't even think that there was evidence. I never even I was like, yeah, I see images of people sitting cross-legged and doing this, but I don't know what that means. And then, when I was looking into self-care, then I saw there is not only some evidence. I mean, it is overwhelming. There is so much of it out there, and so obviously, using it has helped me, and now I use it for my clients to, try to help them.
Well,
Initially, people kind of sure about that. But then eventually they trust.
well, and I know a lot of people struggle with meditation, and a lot of people think it's sitting there like this,
Mhm.
having no thoughts, and being in perfect peace. And it's like, that's the idea of what we're working towards. But the process of meditation is the exercise of being able to
Exactly.
hang out there for a period of time.
Exactly. So the way that I describe it to people is I say it's called a practice for a reason. And every time that you have a thought that wanders and you bring it back, I tell them that's another rep. So the harder it is, because people are like, oh, I can't do it. My mind wanders all the time. I said, the harder it is, the harder the workout. Every time you notice that your brain is going and you bring it back, that's another rep. So if you're doing that a lot, it's a harder workout. But the more you do it, the same way the neurons that fire together wire together. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then it becomes more second nature. So
And the more you have to do it, the harder it is, the more out of shape your brain is.
yeah,
So it means
exactly.
that you need it more than somebody else.
Yes.
So,
So dedicate the time. Do it. I did 20 minutes twice a day. I'm not. I need to restart that, obviously, because I'm starting to flare again. But I was doing 20 minutes twice a day, like specifically, like dedicated time. And I think we all do have that. We think we don't, but we do.
well, and making time for this stuff, sometimes it's hard at home when you're in all your patterns and stuff. And I know you host like health retreats for clients. Can you comment on the difference that you see when people make time to just go do an immersive experience?
Um, I mean, talk about blissed out. It's just,
Well, it accumulates and it's
oh yeah,
easier than like trying to do it
oh,
alone.
much easier, much easier. And it doesn't hurt that my retreats are in Greece on a Greek island, you know, surrounded by the beautiful weather and the food and the sights and all of that. but we do, yeah, yoga and meditation every morning by the water, strength training. We move our bodies the entire day. We are a small community of like-minded people, social connection. It's it takes once the jet lag is done and then people are in there, it's they've made the time. They feel like it's life changing. um
Well, and we heal in community. We're social creatures. Like we do better. And I find in group programs, sometimes people learn more from each other than they do from me. And I just get to kind of hold the space. And I think community is one of the biggest things that's missing in healthcare. HIPAA was very well intended, but it made health like the loneliest thing ever. You feel like you're the only person going through it, which is so untrue. Lots of people are dealing with this. So when we can come together just like that, I think it makes a huge difference. And I even think about like athletic communities. And if you can just find something where you have support in moving your body regularly, even if it's simple, it makes a
yeah,
huge difference in your life. Even if you just have a friend that you walk around the block with in the morning for 20 minutes, right?
absolutely.
And it's the consistency that matters. Like you can do consistent small doses, and that's more effective than a large dose. And that goes for exercise and meditation and all of that. In meditation, sometimes I like to do, like a 40-minute one because it's an actual true reboot for me, whereas like the 20 minutes is like really nice maintenance. So it depends on what your goals are. But like I've gone to deep meditation retreats to get that full brain reboot. And then it's about having consistency in small amounts when you come back to maintain it. And sometimes you need a little update and then you go back to it later. So I know that you're also an athlete. And as we are talking about all these different concepts of recovery, and especially as like an endurance athlete, what did you learn in that realm of like what it means to recover?
Sure, yeah. um so the type of endurance sport that I do is, I started out with marathons and then moved to Ironman triathlons. So, for those people that aren't familiar, an Ironman distance triathlon, or full distance triathlon, is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a marathon run, which is a 26.2 mile run. All in one day. You have 17 hours to complete it. So the training to build up to that is pretty intense. And I found after my very first marathon, I was in my 30s. I think I was 35 years old when I did my first marathon. After my first marathon, I was like, I'm never doing another marathon. My knees swelled up. I mean, I was a mess. I didn't know anything about fascia. I mean, I knew things like you need to stretch, but I didn't know anything else about that. And, when you're in your 20s, you don't really think about recovery. And then you realize in your 30s, it's like things start to happen, never mind 40s and now 50s.
You
But
don't really get a choice once you get into that range. You just have to. Your body tells you to.
you have to. Yeah, exactly. So what I realized from my own recovery, a few things. First of all, physical. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be talking about the physical body, but there's the muscular and myofascial physical body, and then there's also the anti-inflammatory type of intake. Right. So for me, I used to be taking tons of ibuprofen all the time, and then I was getting GI upset, and then, of course, I found out through functional medicine that that gives you intestinal permeability, which we already really know in conventional medicine. We just don't call it that. Um, so I really focused on very antioxidant rich vegetables and lots of like fatty fish, just whatever I could do to get as many antioxidants in me, through food sources. So that was one of the main things that I did, um, with diet. But physically, I realized that it was super important to roll and stretch. So, um, when you have you're physically active, you are breaking down muscle because you're working it so hard, and then you get a little inflammatory process, and then it causes some mild scarring, and that's how the body heals. It scars things up. Well, the scarring causes things to not glide as well, and so now you are kind of adhering your muscle and your fascia together. It's not gliding, it's tugging, it's not stretching. You're now tugging on your tendons, which are tugging on the bones. It's causing inflammatory change underneath. You're starting to swell your joints, even if the issue is not actually in the joint itself, but it's in the muscle, because the muscle is not supple. It's not able to move as well because it's all bound up. I started having a massage therapist that I would go to see once every 2 weeks, then once every week. I was doing rolling, some massage rolling for myself, any type of connective tissue work, soft tissue work. And then I actually ended up inventing this product because I was having issues with my back and I could not get the paraspinal muscles. So I was getting frustrated because I could not access my paraspinal muscles because I have my spinous processes in my back. They're, they're very bony and they stick out and they block me from getting the sides. I tried lacrosse balls and tennis balls and I just could not properly get it. And I was like, oh, if I could just have this. And I kind of drew it out, little pieces, that you can adjust. And anyway, I'm a doctor. I don't know how to make things. I drew it out, threw it in my junk drawer. I was cleaning my junk drawer one day, went to toss it in the recycling. I was like, you never know. Threw it back in the junk drawer. And then I started dating my now husband, who happens to be a plastic injection mold tooling engineer, who saw and also is an endurance athlete. And he saw the little drawing one day and he was like, what's this? And I said, well, I kind of was thinking it'd be really nice if I could have a roller that did this. And he was like, we can make it. So several years later, now we have made it and are currently using it. So and trying to sell it. I'll tell you, maybe that's the stressor. Maybe that's another stressor that's making my
Well,
exit.
I think you have it there. Can you show people kind of the
Oh,
difference of it?
yes, I do have it. So it's in it's in I'll show you in the formation that I like. So this is what I tend to use. This is kind of like the configuration that I like to use. But what it is, let's see how this works here. I can show you. So so this is a base stand that has little feet so it doesn't wiggle, so that when you're on it, you're rolling without you moving. Like it's not, and sorry, you're moving, it's not moving under you, so it's stable. And
Sure.
you can adjust these wheels. You can either adjust them this way by pushing them over. So, like for example, if you have a smaller spine, or a bigger spine, you can move these accordingly depending on your size. Or you could take them all out, add only the big green ones, have only the little blue ones. Um, it comes in a case where they all nest, and it also has handles that if you want to use it as a
Yeah, you can
handheld,
like take the green off and then like use the blue on your leg. I think I saw,
so
right?
or you can even use it like this. Hold on, let me move it and show you. Hold
Awesome.
on.
Now these tools are great. And like the spot that you're working on your leg right there, the adductors, I find it's really hard for people to get on foam rollers. And it's super, super important for low back pain. And it totally gets ignored all the time.
What's fun about this? Well, first of all, it's a little hard on the inside and squishy on the outside. So it gives that resistance that you need, and it has this edge so that you can really work them. So you can, I don't know if you could see, but you can like really work the edge against the muscle belly. I don't know if you were able to see that, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I love to teach people about this just so they have a better understanding of fascia because I used to work in the cadaver lab in school and they like throw fascia in the trash can. And to my understanding these days, fascia is basically a misunderstood part of our nervous system. And so if
Oh.
it's not working correctly and it has all those adhesion points like you're talking about, it basically just junks up the communication of your body's ability to converse with itself across body parts. And if we can start to open this, not only does it improve our blood flow, it improves our lymph flow, it improves that communication. It's also the matrix that holds all of your joints and holds all your organs.
Oh,
So it's this like interwoven web and a communicative network in our body that's dynamic and changing all the time. And if we can do that kind of work, it literally shifts how our consciousness moves through our body.
hmm. Love that. I haven't thought about it that way. But
It's
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of I mean, I think fascia is just one of those things that is been misunderstood for many years and we're only beginning to really understand it. Like there's even if you watch fascia in like a video, you can watch these little tubules and they like open and change much like a spider web as things move, and some of them are hollow and they like transport liquids between them and
So
that's
what Yeah, what I was gonna say is when you look at it under the microscope, it almost looks like dendrites, when neurons are actually trying to grow and touch each other. Um, so that's super interesting. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Is there any other things that you would want people to know about your perspective on how working with fascia has just changed things or affected you?
I mean, the fact that I went from at 35 years old saying I'm never running another marathon to then working on the fascia and stretching, that was like the biggest thing that did it. So first breaking down the adhesions and then lengthening the muscle. Um, I mean, I went from back of the pack to qualifying for the Ironman World Championship last year. So and not only because I've gotten older. As
So
you get
your
older,
personal records continued to go up
my
as you
actual
got older because of this.
my personal so not only so as you get older, everybody gets slower, right? So you figure, okay, so now you're qualifying because you happen to be less slow than some other people, but my actual times have improved. So I'm physically faster. I was physically faster last year as a 52-year-old than I was when I was in my 30s.
So from simply paying attention to your fascia and taking care of your body, you're basically reverse aging as an athlete.
Yeah,
That's
essentially.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. So, like with all this, I mean, I could talk to you all day, but I also know you're busy and I want to honor your time and everything. If there's just one thing you wanted people to know that you think is the most important in everything that we've been discussing, and just something that you wanted them to walk away with, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that if they went to a doctor with their symptoms and were told that either, their gut instinct is wrong, no, or, that they're crazy, I would second guess that, and I would find somebody that can help them in their functional medicine journey so that they can look at the root cause. Because if you have a sense that there's something wrong and you're not feeling your best and you're being dismissed by the conventional medical population, it's not that they're bad people. I'm one of them.
Different
It's
education.
it's that you need somebody to look at it from a different perspective and to work with you in a team approach to try to help you find what exactly is going on to help you feel your best. Oh, and also be open to other possibilities that you might not have known about, because that was something that I had to do, is open my mind to things that I wasn't aware of. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's not real. So those would be the main things.
I love that. No, there's so many things that our ancestors knew and that we've just kind of thrown out in the last few decades, but it's starting to make its way back in. And like there's lots of things that we've known for a long time and it's just remembering them when we've forgotten them. So I think that's a great thing to share with people. And the idea of just going to different education systems for different things, like I'm not going to go to an electrician when I need my plumbing done. right? I'm not going to go to a plumber when I need my electricity done. And I'm not going to go to someone who specializes in chronic care when I have a broken bone. And I'm not going to go to somebody who specializes in acute care when I have a chronic disease. So if we can just start to think about it that way, that it's not this competition. It really should be a collaboration and just understanding where people's expertise lies and understanding where your own expertise lies. I think with all of that, we can have huge shifts in our health. And I'm so glad that you came on to do this because I love just teaching people, right? So it's like if you're one of those people where you really want to just be empowered and take care of yourself, it can start as simple with using a roller and stretching at home and maybe trying some meditation one day. And you'd be surprised how far those 2 things and drinking water and not eating processed foods would go. Like, if you do that for a month, I bet you'll feel like a pretty substantially different person if you've never tried it before. So, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. If people wanted to learn more about you or they were interested in your fascia tool, where would you direct them to?
Okay, sure. Thank you. My functional medicine practice is at chefcoachmd.com, or I have an Instagram, Chef Coach MD, Facebook, Chef Coach MD, YouTube, Chef Coach MD. And the roller product is called Pinnacle TRS. So pinnacletrs.com. So Pinnacle Therapeutic Roller System.
Pinnacle TRS. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kathy. This was really fun, and it was great to just learn more about how you think about things. And for anyone listening, if you have questions, reach out to us, either of us on Instagram or any other social media platform you're on. Ask us questions. That's why we do this stuff. We do want to talk to you, and we want to hear what you're dealing with, and we want to be able to support you. So feel free to reach out. And if you want us to do another one of these talks or you have any particular topics you want to know more about, let us know and we can always do a follow up one. So thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting the next time.
It was fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.